We've heard two things today. We've heard something from the Old Testament, a job description from the Old Testament. We've also heard some things, what needs to be done and how they should be done in the New Testament in Matthew when we read. Okay, there are two different time periods. It's basically the same thing, but it's put in two different ways. What we read in Isaiah right now and what we read at the beginning of Matthew. Are you with me so far? For those of you that have been here at this church for a long time, you know that sometimes we do things differently here in Trinity Church than what was done previously in Trinity Church. Okay? And, you know, there are some changes. Some people like the changes. Some people don't like the changes. I remember my dad's wise words, and he said, "Son, a good pastor knows what in the church needs to change and what in the church should never change." Amen. And so I pray that as we are in a transition, that God will give us the wisdom and the discernment to know what should never change at Trinity Church and what needs to change at Trinity Church. Are you with me? But you know, I'm 42, and even since I was little, I've seen some things different, and I'm getting to a point here. One of the things my dad told me too is, son, methods change, but the message stays the same. And we're talking about missionary work here, how to go about missionary work, how we can support. Just two changes that I've seen since I was little. Fundraisers. Brother Ephraim, before any financial need, first thing our church would do, make tamales. So first thing our church, well, we don't do that for why don't we do that as much as we used to? Well, because some of the people from the Trinity Church, okay, have some pretty decent jobs there. And we're able to give what we have. Well, you know, I remember one time my grandmother complained to my dad, and she said, "The women, those new women, man," she said, "they don't come to prayer anymore." And my dad turned around and he said, "Mom, most of the women in the church work now." She said, "Wow." I think that's when they started having night prayer. But, you know, women work today. You don't have time to come to church during the day to make tamales. You know, men's work back then was a little more seasonal. Sometimes there was work, sometimes there wasn't work. And it was a whole thing. And so, you know, today we do things differently. Today we still sell food. And by the way, just want to let you know, I had a talk from the kitchen committee. And if the 9:15 service doesn't start supporting the luncheons, then they're going to just start selling later on. And that's all right. You know, I'm not particularly hungry at 10:30 for lunch myself either, but, you know, evangelism. You know, when I was younger, we used to go out, my wife and I, and different youth and people that are that age now, we used to go out and we used to go witnessing every Friday night, street witnessing. Okay, we would pass out tracts. I'm 13, 14 years old, and the leader of evangelism literally throws me in a bar. 13, 14 years old. It's like, and I open the door, I'm like, "Oh, what do you want to do? Preach." Okay, so I start preaching in there, you know, and people are looking at me and throwing cans and just, you know, different. That is the way we evangelize. Now today, I wouldn't have any of our youth go into a bar. Number one, we don't know if they're going to come back out. Number two, it's dangerous. Okay, and so what do? Well, we try different things. Okay, we tried for 5, 6, 7 years to have an outreach there at the projects, and it was successful, but we couldn't really get people to come here. And so for the last couple of years, we've been having outreaches here at our church, and they've been successful. Amen. People are coming to the Lord, and little by little, people from the community are starting to come to our church. But these are just a couple of examples how things change, and what I'm getting at is this. Today, we need to complete Jesus' mission, because it's our mission. Amen. We need to complete Jesus' mission. Commission? Because it's our mission, okay, the Great Commission, which is what we read, go into all the world, preach the gospel, make disciples, baptize them, teach them. So in the Old Testament, we see Christ's mission statement, okay, what he is going to do. In the New Testament, what we read, we see his vision statement, how he's going to do it. We read, okay, the Lord has anointed me to preach the good news, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom and release. And in the New Testament, Jesus tells us a little more in detail how we're going to do it. You're going to go out into all nations, and you're going to make disciples of them, and you're going to baptize them, and you're going to teach them. Are you with me? Amen. But between the two of them, what we need to do today to be effective is we need to contextualize. We got to put in context, me today, how do I fulfill that Great Commission? You see, I come to understand, I'm not one of the 12. I'm not one of those 500. And at that particular time, they were all to go out into the world. Maybe that's not my calling. Now today, I'm a dad. I'm a mom. I'm a business owner. I work. I go to school. I have responsibilities. I have a family. Nevertheless, I still, with all these things going on in my life, I still have a responsibility to fulfill the Great Commission because I have chosen to be a follower of Jesus Christ. And if I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, then I have to do what he has told me to do. Regardless of my life situation, regardless of, Paul talks about marriage, and Paul says, if you're married, stay married and work for the Lord as you can, but you have to tend to your family. Amen. He says, but if you're single, and you not only are single, but you have the gift of staying single, listen, to be single and not to want to get married and not to be hurting and lonely, that is a gift from God. Amen. That's a gift from God. So if you think, man, I'm single and I wish this and I wish that, and you wonder, listen, and some people sincerely ask this, I wonder if God wants me to get married. If you want to get married, then you should get married. But if you don't have to wonder about it and you know and you're happy, then that's what God has called you to be a single person. But listen, God has called you to that because he probably has this awesome ministry for you. Are you with me this morning? Amen. And so how do I, in my particular situation here, contextualize this? How do I fulfill this? Okay? First of all, we established that we're not talking about evangelism, personal evangelism. It becomes missionary work because we are to go out and reach all nations. Are you with me?